this ordinance,
Yeah.
is this what you had the last time we had the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. All right. We're all set now, Christy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a meeting of the Facilities and Services Committee on what day is today? June 23rd at 9 a.m. Present are committee members Nancy Rogoff, myself, Aaron Grube, and our CAO Rob Jameson. Also, let's see is Rocky in the no. Okay, so that's attendees, and Ann DeKoenig from our Parks Commission is also tuning in. All right, so this morning we are meeting to discuss a single agenda item, the temporary display legislation that is currently in draft form. We worked out a set of rules for what we're calling temporary displays, which are basically private items that are placed in our park, mostly during the holiday season, that are not attended, that are left unattended in the park for a period of time. And we worked out a series of rules that we thought would apply to what we consider our peak season, which is between November 1st and January 15th, when we have a lot of different not-for-profits and private groups who do various types of decoration in our parks. But upon the drafting of the legislation, it was determined that we would have to have some type of rule set for the non-peak season, or during the time of the year when our parks are actually heavily used by our residents. And that's going to be a very different situation. So what I'm hoping we can do this morning, I distributed the draft legislation to our committee. Rob, would you mind if I put it up on the screen, or do you?
Oh, you can
Okay,
go right ahead.
so I'll go ahead and do the screen share. And then I just want to discuss, I'll show you the section I want to discuss. And Ann, I know you're in attendance, and please, we'll discuss, but please feel free at the end. I will ask for your comment if you'd like, because I would love to have your input on this as well. All right, so share screen. This is it. Okay. All right. So this is, let me get my mouse under this. Okay, so you guys can see that now, right? Correct?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so this is the temporary display ordinance as it currently stands, and it's in a very, very rough draft form. And it's basically, if you read through, it describes the reason for us establishing this policy. And then most of the meat of the ordinance and the things that we've discussed are in what we call the policy for temporary displays, which is attached. So here is our Exhibit A, temporary seasonal decoration and display policy. So the section that I think, it reflects all the things that we've mentioned in previous meetings, which limit the areas of the park in which you can have displays, as well as the period of time and the application procedure. Things that are prohibited, which are here at the end of this, which include no strobe lighting, no inflatable decorations, the restrictions on signage limited to a single sign per applicant, and it cannot be more than 8.5 by 11 and must be located within 2 feet of the ground, that we can remove any display if it's damaged, dangerous, or not in compliance, that they can't do ground staking without speaking to us, that they must provide their own extension cords, and that they must have insurance. They have to go through a application procedure similar to our events policy to the Parks Commission for approval, and they'll check to make sure that it meets our regulations. But the part that we're having problems with, why this has come back to our committee, is this section, Section C. So what we've established is the vast majority of requests for temporary displays occur between November 1st and January 15th. And we basically have discussed what we want for that time period. But in the drafting, our legal counsel has told us that we need to establish some type of rules for what happens not in that period. So currently this Section C says, in the event any person or organization seeks to install a temporary display between January 16th and October 31st, it shall require approval of the Parks Commission and submittal of an application form the Parks Commission may require. Due to the limited number of temporary display requests made for the period from January 16th to October 31st, and the ability to date to accommodate any such displays without concern for the limited space being available, and to still permit the use and enjoyment of the public parks for recreation and leisure purposes. Such applications for temporary displays between January 16th and October 31st of each year shall be determined by such rules and regulations as the Parks Commission may establish. So what we need to do as a committee is discuss what those rules may look like and what we will allow, so we can give some guidance to the Parks Commission and have that written into our policy. So do we have thought? I mean, my thoughts are basically during that period of time, we need to amend the maps, because we can't have displays in many of those locations when the parks are being used for events, because we have a lot of events with lots of people. People like to sit on the grass. It's not snow covered. So, so we need to take out a lot of the areas that we allow displays and not allow displays in those areas during the fair weather months. And I also think we need to limit the amount of time a display can be placed in the park. So instead of it just like during the peak season, we're allowing them for basically 75 days. If we could say, you know, you can only have a display for 5 to 10 days or something like that, or a shorter period of time. Those are my thoughts on this. And I would probably limit it to, I mean, I was thinking about our maps, and for me, Triangle Park, all of the green area needs to be left open. We often have concerts and events that are there, and we can't really have things, we can't have things erected in the park in the middle of in the green space. And then in Riverside Park, the big green open areas, I don't think we can allow those to be used. So the other areas that are currently in our maps are the walkways, and then Bell Street Park and the skating shelter. So those are my thoughts. Do Aaron or Nancy, do either one of you want to give me your thoughts on this? No? Okay. All right. Aaron, your microphone isn't on, or I can't hear you. Okay.
Christie?
So we have an audio problem with Aaron. So
I am
Nancy.
here. I'll go down and help her. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Nancy, is Nancy here? Where's
She disappeared.
she disappeared?
Am I still muted?
No, you're good
we can
now.
hear you now.
You're good now. Nancy
I wasn't on
disappeared.
mute. I don't know what's going on.
I know, I noticed that. So, okay, so what's up?
So I guess I have two, so I don't know, like I read through this when I got it, so they can hear me. It wasn't on mute. I don't know what's going on. I think that I don't love the approval process that we have currently set up. I think when you look at chapter 140, which is what outlines the park authority, it really is an organization designed to study, investigate, plan, advise, report, and recommend to council, the mayor, and the CAO.
Okay.
And I think that when we look at the implications of First Amendment rights and timelines that I just say our general community struggle with timelines. I think I'm a little concerned about putting the full authority to approve things within the parks. I feel like that authority really probably should sit with the CAO, who will work with the Parks Commission to review and ask for their recommendations. And I think as best practice, everything should go through parks. Parks should recommend to the CAO, but I think, and maybe
Approval
this
should be with
different
CAO.
section,
Is
but
that
I
the,
think that if the CAO turns down an application, the appeal should be made to council. But I don't think, I think we start to fundamentally change the structure of the Parks Commission. So we would then need to start looking at chapter 140 and rewrite that if we're giving them decision-making authority. And as fiscal representatives for the village, I think we need to be cognizant about how many people can call Dale to discuss the legal implications, because displays do touch on the First Amendment. And I want to be cognizant of following people's constitutional rights, but also following some sort of constraints around how many times and hours Dale is called about, you know, whatever happens to come up. So, and he did give me case law, and I can't give you the name of it. I will find it for you.
okay.
But there was a case out of, I want to say New York, where they required a 30-day advance notice, and the court didn't like it or something because it didn't protect the constitutional speech. It was onerous or something. So don't quote me on that, but I will find it for you. But I want to make sure that we can process things quickly, not
Sure.
quickly, but in an appropriate amount of time. And I think we do that by resting that with the CAO and allowing appeals to council and having parks work with Rob on those things. Like, I don't want to cut them out. I want them to be part of it, but I just want to be cognizant of roles that have been set up in our current.
Sure.
ordinance.
Okay. So just for the workflow then,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of what happens with events now. And we all know the struggle that we come up with because, and you're right, if 30 days is too onerous, Parks meets once a month. So sometimes an application for an event will come in 2 days after Parks has met, and we know that Parks isn't gonna get a chance to look at it before they need an approval. So what you're saying is we should have the approval should rest with Rob Jamison, our CAO, and then council is for appeal. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
but Parks would advise.
Parks will review and then advise Rob.
Yeah.
So
I
in the
don't want-
case of a situation where the timing isn't going to work, Rob will still have the ability to act on it.
Right.
Okay. So
I mean, because Parks Commission has been asked to meet once a month. That's the commitment they were
of course,
asked for when we appointed them. So I don't want to be calling, 10 special meetings of parks a year so we can process things in a timely fashion. That's a
well,
burden.
and that will leave it for Rob. If Rob can say to Parks, "Hey, can you meet?" And if they can't, he would still be able to make that decision. We wouldn't be tying anyone's hands where he has to have this. Okay, so I think that's good. That's good input, just to make sure we don't put in a policy that then when we try to execute it, it's not working. So does that work for you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to flow smoothly. The whole, there's many things that we do here at Village Hall where, the legislature creates the rules and the structure of what they want to happen. And then myself and our staff here make sure that those things are executed and we follow the rules. So this would fall right in line with how we do things. Now, obviously, if it's something unique or big picture, we would make everybody aware of that, or if it's a special or unique circumstance. And you can write that into the rule structure for that too.
Okay. And I think that in some ways this is better than the process. I mean, luckily we have a process similar to this with events. And so we can see how that works. But I think with this, not everything is coming to council. It's only going to come to council in an appeal.
Yeah.
So if it's denied, they have the ability to go to council and say, "Hey, this was denied and we don't think it should be denied." And then it gets more of a public hearing of what. So you'll be exercising your authority on the rules that we've established with the Parks Commission advice. And if something is turned down for some reason, they have an avenue to come to council to get a second opinion. And that will keep us from having, to hear all this at council every time something comes through. Okay, does that
I
work?
don't want to approve Christmas trees at the council.
No, I know. Here we have another tree that we would like displayed. So, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And I think that the administration is more than capable of doing that as long as we give them the guidance for what we at this, idealistically how we envision this to happening. Now, of course, if there's problems, Rob, you will always come back to us and tell us this is not working, and
Sure.
we'll look at it again. Okay, so
And also, I mean, the types of issues I see happening are where you had a more restricted area in which to
Mhm.
place decorations, and somebody was adamant about placing something that either was, outside of that area or for a longer period of time, or something that didn't follow the
Right.
rules, so they would be denied for that. No, you can't put
right, because that's the rule.
in there, and that they would
Right.
say, well, no, I want my space. And I could see that coming to be, but it'd be a very clear issue for council to decide.
Right, and that will become much more of it's more of a legal question. So I think, again, we'll decide what we would like, and our legal counsel, when they draft it, will tell us if that will be acceptable in terms of what the legal framework of our country is for First Amendment. And obviously we want to meet that, but we want to try to keep the parks available for people to use. And I mean, we don't foresee that much happening, but when we're setting up the rules, we need to try to, make a balance all of the public use of the park for different things. And we have very small parks downtown. So, and the green space is, as we've seen from our events requests, highly sought after as green space to be used by people. So I'm thinking Bell Street Park is a place where it's not used for events. It's not used as a flat green space. And I'm thinking it's a place where we could allow people to erect something if they, for a short period of time. I don't know if that's true or not in terms of just the park's, structure, how it's built. I mean, I don't know if we need to put a size limit on something, or if that's written into this.
We'd
or,
we'd have to look at that a little closer, but I do
Okay.
like the idea of that because when you look at Riverside and Triangle, both of those parks are heavily used.
they are.
And I think that any kind of decoration outside of the normal season, I mean, obviously you have events that come that are very temporary.
Right.
But I think decorations might be something that would be an issue at times, not always.
No,
but-
I agree. And the thing is, I guess that what I need to find out, so like the flowers that came as an art display, I think they would fall under this policy in the future. So those were obviously placed in areas. Now, I don't know if there's a way for them for like that type of a display to get, to have an appeal to be allowed, or if we say, hey, we're not going to allow that kind of thing, are we making that decision now that we're not going to allow that kind of thing if we say they can't be placed in large areas of the park? So that's one question I have in terms of policy to Dale. But at this point, for just setting up rules, I wouldn't want to have people to be able to apply to place things on our big open green spaces in Riverside or Triangle during the summer months or during the fair weather months. So I guess we're very optimistically saying fair weather months are January 16th to October 31st. So we'll have to see if that's the case. So
At the same time, though, I think that we did see that we could have a 1-week display
Right.
with no nominal
Right.
to no impact to
Right.
the physical infrastructure of the park. And we could have, I think that it was a cohesive use with general, like wandering, meandering geese, you
Right.
know.
So that's my concern is, I wouldn't want that all the time, but for like a special, like a traveling art exhibit, it would seem like a different situation. And it was a very, I mean, I guess we could just go with a limited time scope that it doesn't conflict with events or things, I bet then it gets more complicated. So, I mean, for me right now, I'm thinking we say, look, we'll only take applications in fair weather months for Bell Street Park, and they have to be, limited to 10 days or less. And that's just like a first swipe at it, but it's much more complicated in terms of, see, morning meetings aren't going to work for us because we have all these audio problems and connection problems. So, Nancy, I haven't heard from you yet.
Am I back on?
You are back on. Can you while you're here?
I
Tell us
lost the meeting twice.
I know. Is it your internet or is it?
No, I think it's my computer that doesn't like this Zoom.
Oh,
It keeps telling me that it's not a trusted server,
Oh,
and I click trust anyway, and it still doesn't like it. So I'm on my phone now.
okay. So can you, so can you give us your thoughts while you're still connected?
I have a lot of concerns about this,
Okay.
with timing. I need to read some of the cases that you're talking about, that Dale's using.
Sorry.
It's, I'm concerned about setting aside, about having temporary displays in the nicer months
Mhm.
and cluttering up the park so that people can't use it
Right.
for events. For events.
Agree. No, I think we need to
Totally
preserve the space for events, but provide what we need legally to provide a public space. If we're going to provide for just temporary displays at other times of the year, we need to provide some access to,
But I thought that he said we could limit
we can,
the areas, that we don't have to have all the same areas all the time. That we
correct.
can limit the areas in the nicer months. And I mean, our priority for the parks is for the people to use it,
Mhm.
for walking, for sitting around,
Agree.
having a picnic, whatever.
Mhm.
And not for a museum, for displays of whatever anybody wants to display
Right.
all over the place.
Right.
So
So would you be, I probably when you were off the meeting, I was saying, for me, I think limiting to Bell Street Park, which is not often used for events or for anything, it doesn't have, a large flat impact, space. And for less than 10 days for a display to be, up would be kind of my starting point for discussion. But then what we also brought in was something like that would then prohibit a traveling art exhibit like we had with the flowers from being placed in larger areas. So I don't know whether those can be treated as events or not. So that's, or whether I mean, that's the, maybe we can define, an event as less than a certain number of days. So it's not, whether
Yeah,
it's attended or not attended. If an event could last for, if it's under 3 days or something, it's an event versus, a long, something, I don't know if that will work as a legal definition of what we're discussing here. Because clearly what we're trying to look at is things that we, like what we have existing are things that are left in the park for 2.5 months. And that, obviously we don't want that at all in the fair weather times because it's, because we need to preserve park space. So, yeah.
even in the holiday season, we're
Mhm.
talking about what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks at the most.
Well, we're saying November 1st to January 15th. So,
75 days.
Okay. But that's one display there. I don't, are we having things switch in and out during that time period? Or
No.
one thing?
no.
No, what?
Well, no, it's things aren't switching. I mean, I guess
Right.
theoretically, we're allowing people to apply for certain spaces for that season.
For that
It is.
period, right. So,
Right.
so I mean, so that's a little bit different.
It is.
One thing comes in to a certain area and stays there for that time period.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think we want that at all in the other time periods, to have something in place for that long of a time.
No, exactly.
I think that changes the whole nature of the park and what the park is, or the parks are. And the flowers, I mean, I think there was only one flower in the park. The flowers were,
There's one in Triangle and one in Riverside.
okay, so yeah, but the rest of them were in, on other properties.
Right. And they were there for a week.
So
And
that's
that's the thing, is they were there for 1 week and they took up a limited area of a limited space. I mean, granted they were large, but I think maybe we can, if we use that as like an example, you can say we have to limit the amount of time and the amount of space they're taking up. And then that's what I guess I'm trying to sort out for myself is how, I mean, obviously I think we have to have much more limitation on the use of the park space for anything of that nature in the months that are fair weather. And so I think we might have to change our dates as well, because I feel like March is more reasonable than January 16th to be the start of the, fair weather, because obviously no one's going to tell me we have fair weather in Cleveland from January 16th to March. So.
Do we have a diagram of Bell Street Park here in this?
Yeah, it's further down in the application. I'll flip down to it. So here's the application. There's
Oh, there it is. I
Triangle.
see it. Yeah, I have it on my computer.
Okay,
so I
I'll
was
put it
looking-
up for people that are watching. Here's Bell
Yeah.
Street. It's not much of a diagram. I mean, there's space there. It's, basically a nice pocket park. It's got the fountain and some picnic tables, but it certainly wouldn't be used for concerts or yoga or things of that nature that we, kind of things we get applications for, because it's too small. So I feel like it's public space. It's still in the middle of town. But it's not going to compromise events.
No, but it also looks like you're allowing some permanent thing to be in the entire center section of it. That yellow
It'd be
yellow
one-
block.
Well, it's these would be temporary displays, and we could establish the length of time. So,
Right. But even if it's only a week, you could have 20 things a week each and, go on through
no,
the whole.
I think we would limit it to, as we do in the holidays, an application for a single space is for something, and if it's not available, it's not available.
Mhm.
That's what we said in the holidays.
Right.
Right.
But
So-
but different people could have different things continuing throughout the whole year and take up that space throughout that whole
If-
section of
if
time.
that happened, I guess that would be something that, could occur. I mean, I don't think we could, maybe we could write in that, that we only allow access to the park for, 50% of the time. I don't know if we can limit that or not, so it's not continuous, but theoretically, yeah, you could have back-to-back applications that just,
Right,
for
right.
the entire summer. I don't foresee that happening, but yeah, I wouldn't see, unless we can legislate that, and maybe we can, then,
Yeah.
so that's something that's another, I think what we need to get is questions again for this season and send them back to Dale. So,
Right.
and make sure that, so ideally we don't want stuff in the large flat spaces. So we want to take Riverside Park and Triangle Park off the maps for fair weather months. Right? Aaron's point about workflow will definitely go back to Dale, because we need to change it so that the power for approval rests with Rob, with advice from the Parks Commission, appeals to council. We need to limit the time a display can be up in the summer months. So because we do still value even in a space like where we say this is a pocket park, we want people to be able to come there and have a picnic lunch. So I was starting with 10 days. I don't know why, because that's the time frame I always see on any type of application. But we could make it 5 days. We can make it 1 week. I think we need to have some suggestion of what we think is an appropriate amount of time.
I think 10 is
Just my
good.
opinion, which isn't a whole lot, is I think 5 days would be a good, or 5 or 7 days.
Okay, so so a week,
Kind of the off season, and
right?
you want a message to be able to be displayed, but not dominate a whole lot of time.
Okay.
And that would also
Right.
encourage
Okay.
more open use part, just my thoughts.
Okay, I agree. I think that obviously we want to preserve the parks as best as we can. So the more, even if this is something I love that's being erected, I don't want it there. I mean, in the summer, people want to use the outdoor space for, the enjoyment of the residents. They don't want to necessarily have, like Nancy, have it be used as a museum. Even if it was some art piece, I don't know if we'd want to have it there for more than a week. So, okay, so that, and then size, like there was some question about whether we should limit the size of what can be placed there. Now, I would say all the other applications that we had for earlier still apply. No inflatables, no strobe lights, signage is limited, all that. Correct?
We need to add that things cannot be attached or adhered to trees.
Okay,
I would probably say, except for string lights under the guidance of the tree commission. Because
Okay,
I think
that
there
they
might be
need to-
some string lights that go up in our trees in the parks during the
Well,
holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can prohibit people from putting stuff on our trees as
Well,
opposed to putting
the
up their own
floral-
tree.
the
That's what I'm
floral
saying.
display that went up in the park was attached to a tree. They
Right,
did
but
go
we
through
permitted
parks
it.
and shade.
But
right?
it was permitted specially. So like, if someone's gonna
Right.
ask for an exception, they can ask for the exception, but like, as a general rule, things should not be permitted
Okay,
on the
Right.
trees.
Right,
Okay.
That's
yes,
currently a rule that we require of events as well.
yeah.
What about holiday lighting that comes in? Do people put lights on our trees?
That's what I just said. I think that
Yeah.
we should allow for an exception of string lights under the direction of the Shade Tree Commission.
Right, okay.
okay,
But the
Um,
general rule is to prohibit all that stuff on our village-owned trees or trees that are in the ground planted,
right.
so.
Okay, so we'll add that in.
And then I think there probably should be some sort of size requirement. I really just don't think we need super tall things. I think they create complex safety issues. And given the issues we have with underground irrigation,
Mhm.
and just the general sizes of our park spaces, especially in Bell Street, we can't
Right.
have
But
huge
there's
structures.
overhead trees, so yeah, we need
Yeah,
to,
so I really think like a 6 to 7 foot height limit is appropriate.
okay,
I-
so maybe,
yeah,
go ahead.
well, I don't know. Again, I need to read some of the case law and, talk to you. We need to talk to Dale, but I mean, then you're only limiting the height, in certain periods of time. So,
We could have it apply throughout, because I mean, if we think that that's inappropriate, I mean, the
yeah, but.
the large evergreen tree in the center of town is erected by the village, and it's not considered, so it wouldn't affect that. It would affect all other decorations. So,
Okay.
so if we say it can't be taller than, 10 feet, 8 feet or something, then.
Okay,
that,
so
we can
so
apply
that's,
to everything.
okay,
Okay. So size is something, it sounds like we do think size limits are a good idea. I'll get some recommendations from administration for that to Dale, because in terms of what they think is an appropriate size for, what's too big. for the space, because it's going to depend on looking at the space and, you know, deciding like, you know, to go take a look at the spaces. But I guess it'll have to be the space for, we can see if we, I mean, luckily, if you can see on the Bell Street Park, the administration has already put out, you know, stipulations for each area. So at Bell Street, it says allowed on fencing, not allowed on fountain, not allowed on traffic control or electric boxes. So we can just add to that guidance and write that into the application, into the policy. You see that? It's on the screen. So for each park, they've written in their limitations of the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need specific rules for, or general rules for, that cover all of that stuff.
I agree.
Irrigation, like, just generally, not
Well,
specific
yeah,
to each
the
thing.
irrigation, yeah, that stuff is in
The whole-
the general policy. It does say that, you know, no strobe lights, no staking, no, I mean, I can go back up to that section.
But this kind of stuff, I mean, I think that should be a general rule for everything, is, you know, to not be on fences, not be on this, that, and the other thing.
So here are the generalized rules that we have, the extension cords. So, okay.
No extension cords?
No, they have to provide their own.
And
Oh.
maintain them.
So, okay, reviewed by the Parks Commission. So that was section we're going to send back for workflow. You have to
Yeah.
have go ahead.
While you're looking for that section, Rob, can you also add that we're not putting stuff on the play structures? Thanks.
I don't think the play structures.
It's not, that area is not included.
That area is not
That area is off limits for any decoration.
off limits anyway.
Yeah, we took the playground out, remember? We had 2 walkways.
I mean, I don't, and it's like, I got it last night, so I'm working there. as
Yeah,
much as
I
can.
know. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but like, I'm looking at the Bell Street Park little map now, and there's a yellow outline square. So
Yeah.
are we designating that entire area permissible for
For
some
the
sort
Bell
of
Street Park,
temporary?
this,
Is
I
that
think
one?
so. I think
It's-
and if we want to limit it to just 1/2 or something, I mean, this is was my question in our last meeting was, are these maps sufficient to say what we're limiting it to? Now, we could divide the area if you want to say it's just the half on one side of the fountain. I mean, so at this point, yes, that's what we're saying. You can put
Okay, but-
display, yeah,
So is this one person or one entity
one.
displaying one thing?
One.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But the way I would see this, if I were designing something, that I could take up that entire space.
Yes.
Yeah. But if we limit size and
Ooh.
say it has to be of this size, then you can take up that entire space as long as you're within the size limit, which may be a certain height and a certain weight and a certain width or something. You know, if it's like a, we can, if we limit size, we're not going to say,
But then you can't get, then I would say that you're not giving me the entire space. Then.
well, you can place it anywhere within the space.
Okay,
Right. So,
no, but.
no, but okay. And then, okay.
Is there grass in there or are there plantings? It's been so long since I've been in Bell Street Park.
That part's mostly grass, I think, inside the,
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
yeah, but here, if I see that yellow box and I say, I want to
Yeah.
put a display in there. It looks to me like I'm entitled to set stuff up within that box, like a whole bunch of different stuff. And that's my display.
Yeah. No, I think if we
So
want.
if you're limiting the size, then I think you need to limit the size of the box.
I think we should keep the box towards the bridge side and not have stuff like from the fountain towards,
Okay, we can do that. We
Blacksmith
can,
shop.
we can
I mean,
make it.
I'm not saying anything about where it is. I'm just saying the size of it. If you want me to have something smaller than that, I think you need to give me a smaller space to put it in.
I'm agreeing with you, Nancy. I would draw the box so it ends at the left side of that.
Okay, so let's use the flowers as an example. I guess my issue is then if you look at here, Riverside Park, if we say R1 is the grassy area and that's in front of the thing, if we were to say, okay, we have a flower obviously the flower doesn't take up all of R1. It took up like this much of R1.
Right.
Now, are we going to basically dictate the placement of something? I mean, in Bell Street Park, maybe we say, yes, we are going to dictate the placement because it's such a small park. But for normal application of this policy, I think we were saying you can place your item of this size somewhere within this box, not the size is equal to the box.
Correct.
So I guess maybe we say that with Bell Street Park, we do want to say exactly where it has to go because that park is so limited. But I don't know if we need to apply that to everything.
Well, it's
So-
a limited space and we have a business relationship with an adjacent property owner. So I want to be respectful of like creating some level of buffer zones too. I mean, we need to provide the First
Oh,
Amendment.
absolutely.
and
Well, I
space
understand that. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think that the size of the item, limiting the size of the item limits the placement of the item. So for Bell Street Park, yes, we can say, look, we don't want it on this side because it's also much more complicated. We've got a war memorial over there. There's like a plaque, there's some plantings. We've got a patio, which we now have abutting an area, and there's the fountain kind of separates it. So you can say on this side, you know, because it is a small space, we can say this is the space where you can place something and it can be this big.
Mhm.
And that, as long as that limitation, you know, works legally, then I'm fine with that. To say, we allow temporary displays year round of this size in this location, and that's that. And this is the application process. So would that be acceptable? I mean, in terms of a second draft coming back to us, or no?
You're thinking in terms of one person with one thing within that space.
Yeah.
If I can put something within one of those boxes, now I'm looking at Riverside Park.
Okay,
And there's the boxes and those
Yep.
other,
here we go. Okay.
okay. So are you saying that I can only put one thing in one box? I can't put 10 things in one box?
If
You're-
we
you're thinking-
limit the size, well, if we set that as the rule, if we limit the size and set that as the rule, then yes. If we
I'm
say,
not-
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do one or the other.
Right.
I'm just saying that you're talking about one thing being in one box. What if
Right.
somebody comes in with 10 things, small things to fit in one box?
I think that's the rule we have to set. And I think if we say you can't place 10 things during the fair weather months, then, you know, then we can set that rule. I mean, I'm assuming, I mean, maybe we can't, but if we basically say that's how we want our part, if we're going to allow displays, these are the rules. I mean, I think it's what we're trying to decide, what are our rules going to be?
But if I want to do, let's say I'm raising money raising awareness for breast cancer in October, and I'm going to use the pathway R3, R4, R5, and I am going to use a pink ribbon wrapped around the light poles, which seems to be permitted. That's multiple items. I don't think we can limit the number of items. I think we can limit the size, the weight of items. We can create setbacks if we want. We
True.
can say we can do coverage. We could say you can't cover more than 60% of this area.
Exactly. That
And
might
I
be a way
think
to
we
do
need to
it.
think about it as like we do with zoning, where lot coverage and things like that versus like.
Agree. That's a good way to
number
look at it.
items.
I would say on your example that I don't think we're going to allow any of the walkways to be used in the summer.
I know, but I had to.
I know, it was a
it
good
came to my
example.
mind,
It was a very good
Couldn't-
example. So,
and I
but
couldn't
yeah,
add a third lane on Bell Street in this moment. So.
exactly.
ribbons
I
it
know.
is.
You're not taking my property this meeting. Okay,
I'm
so
taking it all.
exactly. So
Joking. I am not taking.
but no,
it.
but that has led us to a good idea, which is to think of this in terms of coverage. And because obviously we don't want it. I mean, if we try to think of the goal of what we're trying to get to, we want there to be limited use of the space, still allow for some expression, but in the fair weather months, but limited use of the space and for a limited period of time so that we can retain the use of our parks.
And minimal impact to the park environments post installation.
Right.
Oh, we
Okay.
lost Nancy.
So what amount of coverage are you comfortable with?
I don't know. Nancy's gone. So. let's
Nancy
go for
popped out
90%
again.
Coverage. No.
Okay,
Um,
I would think very small,
Rob, do you have a
20%.
sense of coverage? Percentage of coverage?
What's that?
If we were, well played, sir. If we were to say you can only cover X percentage of R1 with your display,
we need to just draw a size and put a dimension in the box. Because percentage is too hard to figure out. We're not going to do a math equation every time someone submits something. A lot of people are going to come in and say, I want to put in a sign. Can I do that? So I think if you're going to do like a box here, size that and say it's a 5x6 box. You can put anything you want in that 5x6 box, and that's going to be easy. I see it being a
But this-
problem.
Yeah,
other
but the
than
signs
that.
will still be regulated as per the sign rule, which is one
Oh, right,
sign.
or
per
not a
display, right?
sign, just any
No, I
kind of
know.
decoration. Sorry. for
Some
that.
kind of, okay,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, we'll figure out a size and it'll come back in another draft. No,
And
we
you
are
can make the
approaching,
size a percentage and work that out now.
right,
But I
exactly.
want to make it easy for someone to look at the box and say, okay, it's a 6x7 area.
It should
I
be
can
fine,
just-
exactly.
Right, I mean, you guys will need to mark out these sections or something, so we can get those measurements. if
So
that's-
we are 15 minutes from our hard stop. So let's get to our, so I think I have a list of recommendations to send back to Dale. I guess I'm going to go to administration to discuss the size issue. As far as I can see right now, we're only discussing Fairweather Munsbell Street Park as being a centrally located park that is not used for events or for large amounts of gathering, but that we still want to limit the use of it so that people still have time. Now, I would like to see if Anne has anything to say. I'm trying to get back. I'm going to stop my screen share and then go to see participants.
I have invited Anne
Oh, good. So Anne's here.
to the group so she can participate with you.
Excellent. Hope she knows that she's being invited. So there she is. Okay.
There she is. Yep, takes a minute. We see your hand raised, Anne, if you
I'm
could.
muting.
There you
I'm
go.
muting.
Can you hear me?
Yep, just
Good
takes a
morning,
minute.
Anne. Good morning.
Good
How are
morning. Do you
you?
want my video? Here, start that.
Okay.
There.
Hey, good morning. So
I'm very impressed with how comprehensive you're being about all this. It's complicated, and I appreciate what you're doing. I just have one question
sure.
having to do with the story walk that was in Riverside Park. It was kind of an exception, and
Right.
unfortunately, it was vandalized by the kids that hang out in the skating shelter.
Oh,
And
great.
it was totally taken down last week. But Parks agreed that they could keep their story walk signs up for 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm on the library board, so I will be at the next meeting to hear what the librarians want to do about it, because that's an expensive proposition.
Okay. Yeah. To protect
But-
it. To have it all the time. You mean?
Well, I know that they wanted to do it again,
Mhm.
I think in June and July, but I don't know what they're going to do because 4 of the brackets were really badly damaged and some of the other ones were too.
Okay.
So is that something that would still be allowed?
That's a good question, because in my vision, we wouldn't allow things along the walkways in Riverside, just because I don't, this is an area that I do want to protect from clutter, and I guess if we were limiting the amount of time, we would have to figure out an amount of time we'd be comfortable with, but months would definitely not be in my comfort zone to have
But
something up for months.
Didn't the village end up putting up the story walk directly because we had some complications around it, and it was actually a village installation, even though it was a gift from Friends of the Library to the village?
So if that happens, then the village would always have the ability to put up something on our own, but it would have to be fully endorsed by the village and placed as a village project, if that were the case, correct?
Yes.
So I guess that would be the workaround for exceptions, like a project that would be considered like good for the education of the children or something, but that would give us a lot more control over what it looks like as well. If we wanted to, fit with the aesthetics of the public park. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right, because it's a compatible use to the way with the connection that we have with the library and the play space
Right.
and the walking. So I think that there's like rational reasons why the village would be willing to continue to accept that type of gift from the Friends of the Library.
Okay, so that's another question I can put on my list to Dale is, would this work for a special project that was something the village was interested in doing? Can we do it as the village in a location that is not?
I did ask him that question.
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Okay, so then
Because
maybe
I
we're
was
good.
concerned about the bandstand and how, because we do decorate some of our areas and we can continue to ask us, we can continue to work with a specific group if we're going to decorate the bandstand for the winter, or if we want to have garland on our railings at the steps to the falls, we can still do that because it is our property.
Okay. So that's good. I think, I think we have a full slate of things to go back to Dale. We'll get another draft. I'll send it around and we'll see how this goes. You know, it's going to happen. Eventually, we're going to have a policy.
It'll get there. It'll be fine.
Sounds really good.
Okay.
It takes a long time to sort it out, and I'm grateful that you're doing it.
Well, it's good because then you'll have some guidelines for when these
Yeah.
things come to you. You'll kind of know, well, this is what we all agreed. This is how, and again, like I said to Rob as well, if something's not working, just kick it back to the committee and we'll figure it out. So,
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to, if people don't have any other questions or anything else that, Rob, do you have anything you need us to do? I know Aaron needs to be somewhere, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Is that,
Sure.
okay, so going once, going twice? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. The meeting of the Facilities and Services is adjourned at 9:49 p.m. AM.
I'll see you later.
See you later. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.